Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode number 1 of AskCindy. So, for those that are new to our show, it's so odd to call it a show. For those that are new or just tuning in for the first time on AskCindy, just a little bit of an introduction. AskCindy is a segment that we do every week where we talk about topics that are helpful and relevant to entrepreneurs. Our goal is to really provide wisdom and insight into some of the questions that are bugging our SME owners, our entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and startup founders. Today's topic is going to be about networking and is it really relevant for entrepreneurs? If you have questions, feel free to chat them in the comments or type them in the comments or send us a message and we'll try our best to answer them tonight. Ayan. Before we begin, just want to plug all our social media channels. So on Facebook, you can follow us at allcare.io. You can also check us on Instagram at allcare.io. With LinkedIn, it's the same on Facebook, allcare.io. And then we're also on YouTube. And just recently, we launched our Kumu channels. Again, thanks to our Kumu friends that recently launched the All Care Kumu partnership. So, yun. Okay. Our tech team is saying, kindly check your mic sa laptop kung may audio input sa OBS. Wala. So give me a minute. Let's make sure that this is working. Audio input. Hello? 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 Okay, wala tayong audio input. And, teka. Wala. Can you guys hear me sa ating Kumu stream? Uh, Hello? Hello? Ayan. Let me know, tech team, if this is okay. Ayan, perfect. All right. Sorry guys, medyo rusty eh. Uh, season 2, um, we decided to do season 2 just maybe a month ago. We felt that we should get back on the saddle, creating content for our SME partners, our startup friends, startup founder friends, and solopreneurs, techpreneurs. So, ayan. So, medyo rusty lang ng konti. Okay, let's begin. I think we have a couple of questions that were already sent in by our friends. So if we can just have some of the questions flashed on the screen. Again, guys, if you're watching, guys and girls, if you're watching, a topic tonight is networking relevant for entrepreneurs? You can send in your questions in Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and even in Kumu. Just type it in, and we will try our very best to answer all of them tonight. Okay, team, pasok natin yung first question. Okay, what's the difference between making connections and networking? Very, very good first question. Whoever sent this in, maraming salamat. Sana hindi yung team namin yung nag-send dito. Okay, what is the difference between networking and making connections? Technically, making connections is what we aim to do when we network. Okay, so here in the Philippines, unfortunately, there's this negative stigma around networking for many reasons. There were a couple of shady enterprises that were coined as networking, right? We don't need to mention any of them. And so there has been this negative connotation when somebody says, "Oy, dapat nagne-networking ka." No? But in my experience, some of my long-lasting relationships, friendships, and partnerships have been brought about by my networking. So what do we mean by networking? It's really putting yourself out there to meet new people and making genuine connections. Pero may karugtong yan. The goal in making connections is to help them. Okay? Part ako yun ng isang referral organization called BNI. And one of the tenets that we espouse in BNI is givers gain. And actually, that's one of the reasons I enjoyed I enjoy being part of BNI kasi yan din ang approach ko to networking. We go to network to meet new people, form genuine connections, not because we want to sell to them, but because we want to build genuine relationships and maybe maging susi tayo that could help them get to where they want to go. If at some point that relationship produces fruit, like maybe a deal, maybe a potential partnership, then great. But that is not the primary purpose when I go out and meet new people. I just want to really create and expand my community through genuine connections and relationships. So, making connections is part of really networking. All right. So I hope that was helpful. Do we have another question? What can I gain from networking? So obviously, this would be something that someone has never done, no? Kung hindi pa tayo nakapag-network or at least yung networking experience natin very limited, this is something that we would ask now, what can I gain? And honestly, what you really gain are relationships, no? New network, new relationships, new friendships. And sa lahat ng entrepreneur na nanonood nito, I'm sure you know that there are key relationships, key friendships and partnerships, key connections that you've made over time that has helped you get to where you are today. Diba? So maybe in the short term, your networking isn't really delivering the fruit that you wanted to, which is negosyo, right? But through these genuine relationships, you can get mentorship, you can get support, you can get sense of community, you can get advice. And honestly, and this is something to remember. So if you're listening, please remember this part. In networking and building community, you get what you put in. So if you go into a networking or you go into a community and your only purpose is to make money out of them, you see them as walking dollar figures or peso figures, then mahirap talaga yan. Wala kang mahihinuha sa networking. But if your purpose going into networking, going into a community building initiative is really to build and expand your network of people, of your network of support, network of mentorship, network of advocates, um, from there, meron at meron kang makukuha. Diba? So ako, I've been fortunate enough to really be part of the Philippine startup ecosystem, to be part of a community of management consultants, to be part of like entrepreneurs na hindi lang startups. I have my very, what do you call this? Very expansive community of motorcycle enthusiasts. And doon marami akong relationships na nabibuild, na nagiging negosyo, and so forth. But again, when I go into a networking event or I go into a community or even a networking organization, I don't think about how much money can I get from this. That's not my initial investment. That's not my initial thought. My initial thought is, who are the people here that I can really build a connection with? Who are the relationships? What kind of relationships do I really want to foster? Are there mentors here? Are there people I can mentor? Are there people here that can share their experiences to me so I can learn from them? Yan ang starting point ko parate. Yan. Okay. So that's our second question. No? What can I gain? Do we have another question, team? Okay. Can introverts be good at networking? I don't see why not. Siguro the challenge for introverts, and forgive me if there's some stereotypical interpretation from my point of view. I'll be happy to be corrected. I'm happy to be corrected. But for me, I think for introverts, the most challenging part would be to start, right? To actually go out and make the first move. However, as I mentioned earlier, networking is really largely about building genuine connections. And can introverts build genuine connections and relationships in an event? Absolutely, right? Admittedly, let me make this clear, because of our virtual environment right now, medyo it's been challenging to really form genuine connections and genuine relationships over the screen, right? And this is not unique to introverts. This is unique to everyone. Um, this is a phenomenon that happens to everyone. But I think understanding the barriers, understanding body language, understanding how to make the most out of the situation, introverts can definitely be good at this. And more importantly, building genuine relationships, genuine connections are not exclusive to extroverts. Introverts can and definitely are able to build those genuine connections, whether it's virtual or physical. Now, admittedly, when I was starting my sales career back in 2015, very challenging yung uh, pag make ng first move, especially if you go into a crowd and you're the youngest. Fortunately, I go into a crowd now. I'm not the youngest anymore. When did that ever become fortunately, no? But yeah, interestingly, because I've aged a little, that's not as difficult as when I was much younger, 2014, 2015, no? So uh, that kind of helps. Pagka talagang youngster tayo and then we go into a networking event filled with more mature and more experienced people, it can get a little bit intimidating. But the key there is let's go into those events, let's go into those webinars, let's go into those networking meetings with the learner mindset. We're there to learn, we're there to take insights from other people who've been there longer. We want to make genuine connections, we want to make friends. And with that very genuine mindset, I don't think it's going to be that difficult for anybody. But yeah, for introverts, siguro yung just getting started would be the most challenging part. Okay. Ano pa? Meron pa ba yung question, teams? Okay. Let's welcome new viewers, sabi ni Julian. Okay, so for those that are tuning in just now to Ask Cindy, thank you so much. The topic tonight is networking relevant for entrepreneurs? And if you have questions or if you have thoughts, you have insights to share, please feel free to comment them on both Facebook and LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kumu, as well as Instagram. We're also live on Instagram. So please keep those comments coming, keep those questions coming. Nahiya kayo, you can also send us a DM, and I'm sure our team will catch that. So welcome. As Cindy is a weekly thing that we used to do back in season one, where we talk about topics that are helpful and relevant to our entrepreneurs, startup founders, and anybody thinking of going into business. All right, cool. Do you have go-to phrases when opening a conversation with potential contacts? So very, very good question, very practical. I'm happy that there's somebody asking about practical tips. Yes. So what happens when I go into let me declare this first. Kahit mukha akong extrovert, especially talking on the screen, I actually prefer to be alone. For those that know me very well, they know I value alone time. But I also know that it's my job to really be part of the community, to put myself out there so I can put my startup out there and really build genuine connections. So before I go into event, ito yung mga practical tips ko, no? Ikukwento ko na sa inyo. So first, I always make sure I dress appropriately for the event that I'm going to. You might be thinking, bakit ang layo nun? I just want to share that making sure that you are dressed appropriately is the first thing that will help you overcome feeling intimidated or feeling uh, underperforming. What I mean, pag pumasok ka sa isang event, kunyari yung mga Chamber of Commerce events, di ba? Marami yan. Usually, maganda mga suot ng mga tao dyan. Naka-long sleeve, yung iba naka-suit, yung ibang more experienced and more mature ladies natin dyan, talagang sobra sila nakabihes. So if you go in a t-shirt, you'll really feel a bit intimidated because, you will stick out because you're wearing differently, something different. So my recommendation is to, if it's not your thing, especially if you're an introvert or you're like me, that I really don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, I just dress appropriately for the occasion. Then when I'm there, I first scan the room. Are there people that I already know? Okay, so scan ko yung room, check ko if there are friends there. Because if meron, to make myself at ease, pinupuntahan ko yung mga taong yun and I say hi. Since akala ko ba nandun ka to make new connections, ba't ka pupunta sa mga kakilala mo? I'm telling you this because I don't feel as comfortable, even if it doesn't seem that way. I want to make myself feel comfortable in the event, so I look for my anchors. I look for people that I know, my friends, my colleagues, people that I've met in the past, para medyo kumalma ako. And once I'm with them, usually, may kakilala sila na darating dun sa grupo, di ba? And then I get introduced to those people, and then the conversation is a little more free-flowing. Now, what if meron talaga, kunyari pumunta ako sa isang event or sa isang online virtual conference na wala talaga akong kakilala? Usually, before I go to these events, I'm thinking about what's the event, who are the people attending the event, what sort of organizations are going to be there, is there any specific organization or specific person that I want to meet? Before I go to these events, nire-ready ko lahat ng information na to as much as I can. Because, again, I want to be intentional about building connections, building genuine relationships, and being out there, putting myself and my startup out there, putting my business out there. So kung meron talaga akong gustong ma-meet doon, pagdating ko sa event, wala naman na talaga akong kakilala, I try to see if they're there. No? With the help of social media, the help of LinkedIn, it's not hard to know what they look like, right? Because you can check that on LinkedIn. And then usually if they're there, I just go for it. It really depends on the situation. I remember, for example, I was in an event and I really wanted to meet David, who was the CEO of Multisys. I saw him in the Asia CEO Awards back in 2019, just before the pandemic. And I had wanted to speak with him for some time already, and he was in the event. So lumapit sa kanya, the moment na may tapos niya nang kausapin yung kausap niya, I just introduced myself. I said, "Hey David, my name is Cindy Burdette. I'm the CEO of All Care. I've been following Multisys. I love your growth. I love the energy that you guys do everything, especially your recent funding round from PLDT, ganyan, ganyan." And because he knew that I was interested enough in him and his company, I knew the latest updates, right? Again, this was genuine. I really wanted to meet him. He got interested in me. So he asked about what I did, about my startup, and then natural na yung conversation. So siguro in that sense, ano yung mga door opener nga? Yun, number one, kung meron talaga kayong ideal na makausap, na contact in an event, come prepared, research, no? Now, the other thing that really helps me and I remember this back in 2017, I absolutely enjoyed attending PMAP events. If there was somebody na parang wala din kausap and wala din naman akong kausap, usually I look at the person and I look at something that I can greet her with. Maybe her clothes, maybe the way her hair is styled, maybe the color of her bag. I use that as an icebreaker. I praise and I give her a compliment. I give him a compliment. Especially pagka maganda yung damit ng mga tao, I give compliments. Now, ako, I love shoes. I love both formal and sneaker shoes. I have quite the vocabulary when it comes to those, especially non-sneaker shoes. So, punta ako doon and babatiin ko yung sapatos. Maganda yung damit, babatiin ko yung damit. Maganda yung bag, babatiin ko yung bag. And again, these are genuine things that I really like. So when I ask them, hey, I really like your bag, is this ganyan, is this ganyan, and then they'll be happy to share about that. And then that gets the conversation flowing. So it's a good icebreaker. No? Hanggat maaari, don't bring up the item you're gonna sell. Alam mo yon, like, nobody wants to be sold to in a community event. Okay? Everybody is there to have fun, build relationships, build connections. So don't come into an event thinking, uy, yan si Cindy, bebentahan ko yan ng subscription to Netflix eh. And then paglapit, hi Cindy, I'm from Netflix. I'd like you to know more about, diba? Like, who wants to talk to that person? So yeah, so just be natural, be casual, be interesting, and be interested. More importantly, be interested with the people you want to connect with. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Yun. Pero weird, no? I just said na hindi talaga ako hindi talaga ako masyadong uh, magaling pagdating sa networking, but mahilig ako sa tao. Mahilig ako makinig ng stories ng tao. Mahilig ako matuto ng bagong things. So, ang ending is, I make the most out of the sessions that I go to, whether virtual or physical, kasi nga, I'm very interested with people and their stories. So, ayan. I hope that was helpful. If you have responses to that, if you have additional tips, feel free to put them in the comments to share with myself and the others watching this stream. Do you have another question? Okay. Is there a way to quantify the real value of making time and effort to network? Yes, there is. Okay. Very, very technical answer. And give me maybe 2 minutes to answer this. So, in marketing and sales, we have a concept called funnel, right? And usually, the funnel is the visual representation of your leads and how those leads move from one stage to another, how they're processed, and the rate at which you're processing them. Now, on the top of the funnel, which is your leads, may breakdown yan sa likod, which is your lead sources. One of the sources, effective sources for marketing qualified leads are events, are networking sessions, are online conferences, and all of these things, organizations. Now, all of those are connected to making connections, building genuine relationships, investing time and effort, right? If you really wanted to quantify the impact of those, then you would be measuring, okay, how many people have you spoken with that you got to introduce your company and they said they were interested to learn more about it through another meeting. Now, let me just warn against thinking that you're going to a networking event purely to make money. Again, we have to go into a networking event or a community event, whether it's online or physical, with the mindset of really building connections, building the community, adding and investing and sowing into the community that may or may not have direct value to us in the short term. But in the long term, definitely may value yan. I cannot count the number of times that I've had deals where ang ending, magiging technical influencer or potential blocker is somebody that I've met in a previous event, in a previous community occasion, a networking event. And then they saw me, and then they were more willing to talk about the blockage, or they were more willing to talk about the scenarios kasi kilala na nila ako. They've met me somewhere. They know I'm a good person. They've heard about me, my story, my startup, my business, what have you. They're more likely to talk to me because na-warm na yan through a networking event. No? So short term, yes, meron siyang direct metrics that you can ascribe to, which is what we call marketing qualified leads, particularly under lead sources. You can tag them under events and networking activities. You know, your marketing team will define them differently, but meron. But again, short-term thinking masyado yan. Ang networking, it's long-term. Relationship building, community, building genuine connections. Kahit doon sa immediate community na ni-network natin, wala tayong client, they might know of people that could be potential clients. And if they see our genuine interest, they see the genuine story behind their brand, their business, they might refer kahit hindi natin sila i-preempt or i-prompt na mag-refer. So I hope that answered your question. Okay. Ayan. Sip lang muna ako ng aking coffee. Pag may questions kayo guys, please feel free to put them in the chat. I think, how many minutes are we gonna be live? 30, 40? Does the team know? Wala talagang kaalam-alam yung host. 45 minutes at most. Okay, so if you still have questions or thoughts about networking and is it relevant for entrepreneurs, please put them in the chat. Okay, we have 20 more minutes, so we can answer questions. Okay, how do I sustain the relationship with my network? So, it's really hard to sustain when you have so many with very low quality relationship. Yung hindi ko alam kung na-experience ito with your friendships, right? But when you have a lot of friends, it's very hard to sustain a level of relationship that's really quality, no? And the same I think is true for networking. It's the same is true for business development in the sense of building relationships and nurturing those relationships. And often you'll see BDs that are assigned to certain industries, certain vertical, because that makes it easier for them not to nurture those relationships. Um, but for me, there are activities that you can do that are a little more broad but low impact but broad in scale. So for example, when we were in TMAP in 2017, we volunteered a lot in the community initiatives of PMAP. Now, the I absolutely enjoyed volunteering to the research initiatives, ganyan. But at the same time, it was a way for us to be connected with the people we networked on a regular basis without really spending one-to-one time, without really investing in, oh, coffee shop tayo and let's catch up, no? So that's one way to do that. You volunteer for the organization, maybe you project lead, maybe you volunteer as an officer, and so on. Okay, so that's one way to really sustain that relationship within the network, especially in organizations. There's so many ways to volunteer. There's so many ways to participate. Don't just attend. Don't just pay the cocktail fee and then show up. No, many ways to participate and make the most out of the networking session or the organization. The other thing that I would recommend outside of that parang broad impact, broad stroke, low impact kind of relationship building technique is you also select yung talagang core na for you really want to invest in a deeper sense, no? For example, for me, in the startup community, there are really some people that I really enjoyed maintaining those relationships. Yung tipong kahit ilang buwan kayong hindi mag-usap, pero pag nag-aya ng catch up, pag nag-aya ng call, it's like just yesterday you were together. And this is a personal experience of mine. Even for VCs, your startup founders look at some startup founders, and not all of them, but some startup founders look at VCs parang it's such a painstaking meeting, right? It's such a chore. But for me, there are VCs that I really look forward to speaking with. Um, Kumbaga, especially those that I know have genuine interest for what we're doing, what we're building, how we're addressing the market, the problems of the market. I absolutely love meeting with them, even if it's just to catch up. Because during those conversations, I get to share my thoughts, I get to share my ideas, and they're also giving me insights, they're giving me tips, they're giving me their 2 cents. And mind you, I didn't pay them, but these are high level executives, very experienced entrepreneurs, right? And so talagang kumbaga, there are a select number of people that I know you intentionally want to keep and nurture. Invest in those. So in a way, parang you have your prioritization, right? Yung parang top tier mo ng relationships that you want to maintain. And then you maybe have tier one, tier two, right? Um, and then you also align ano yung initiatives na gagawin mo to maintain tier 1 and tier 2. When I was at Storm, I learned a very interesting tip of building your personal advisory board. It's like treating yourself as an organization and then having your board members or your board of directors serve as your mentors. And I thought that was an interesting thing because those would be your tier one. Ito yung regularly you would give them updates about what you're doing and you would seek out their advice and their insights about what you're doing. I don't know how many of you are actually investing in your personal board of advisors, right? But if you are not, then this is the sign you're waiting for to start and investing in those people. I have mine. I also have my parent tier one relationships and partnerships and friendships that I maintain. Na talagang I go out of my way to make sure I check in on them. And then obviously, That's why you have social media, right? You want the rest of the people that you care about that are in your network, you want them to be updated, especially with major milestones, and that's why we put those there. Yan. So yung mga LinkedIn nyo, if it's not updated, I would recommend to update them so you can also maintain contact and connection with those that you've met along the way. Ayan. So I hope that was helpful. We might have time for 2 or 3 more questions. So again, if you're just joining, our topic tonight is networking, relevant and helpful for entrepreneurs. And if you have a live question, just type them in the comments or in the chat boxes in Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Kumu. Okay, do you have a question, guys? Is it okay to connect with competitors? Absolutely. Is it okay to share trade secrets with competitors? Absolutely not. So, obviously, we want to build a relationship with our competitors. Bakit? It's always good to know who your competitors are and to have that friendly competition. And in fact, in many cases, your competition can be a potential partner. Like an opportunity arises, you're capable of doing something but not fully. You might be able to bring in a competitor to do a joint venture with you, to do a partnership with you. Again, depends on your industry, depends on what you're doing, depends on what you're selling. But yes, I'm a firm believer that relationships can be found even with competitors. They're everywhere. In my motorcycle group, I have a lot of relationships there that have helped in the business, at church, in the local startup scene, the international startup scene, ang dami niyan. Sometimes hindi ako yung kliyente, sometimes ako yung kliyente, sometimes sila yung kliyente, sometimes hindi, may kilala lang ako and then I'll connect them, no? Competitor or not. There's always something there to be learned, always something there to be interested in. And you never know, they might be the people who will buy your company, right? They might be your exit strategy or vice versa. They might be a potential acquisition for you to strengthen your business. You won't know if you're not able to really build this connection and make these conversations. So yes, by all means, feel free to connect with your competitors. Just say hi, have a cup of coffee or two. But syempre, be worried then na competitor mo yon. So whatever you share in those conversations, just be aware that those are competitors you are talking to. So if you can avoid sharing trade secrets, you should do that. But if you wanna parang brainstorm on a trend for employees, a trend for like the market, uh, a trend on taxation, ganyan. I've seen when the train law was newly implemented, I've seen so many people that are competitors of each other discuss the train law because it both affected them, right? So again, it's not all it's a good thing to connect with our competitors. Let's just be aware of the information we share. Okay. Uh any question? Yes, I think we have a couple of more questions coming through. Given the workplace has become heavily virtual, what platforms would you recommend for networking? Okay, so let me tell you where I network. So number one, I'm a part of BNI. It's a referral networking group. Its primary goal is to learn about your business so other people can refer businesses to you. So very, very helpful. The other one that I find very interesting, I'm not a member of, is GCI. I know many folks have flourished in their membership in JCI, so go check that out. Personally, I'm a member of Pavilion, which is Revenue Operations Professional around the world. I belong to the APAC chapter, particularly the Singapore chapter. Um, what else? Na-active ako. Obviously, my motorcycling group, my adventurer group, where we love going off-road. I made a number of friends and have received a number of referrals through that group. So again, even your hobbies, guys, can really be a source of a good networking opportunity for you. Kasi nga, the goal is to be interested in them. And by nature, they would be interested in you and you never know. You might find a potential partnership or business opportunity there. Yung NBA cards group ko, hindi ko na mabilang ilang. In fact, many of my very good friends now have come in that community, have come from that community. and they've become great clients of All Care, no? Your high school barkada, lahat yan. Kung yung virtual, I would recommend yung mga online conferences. I know IMAP is now digital. I know PMAP conferences have gone digital also. Yung mga yun, those are also perfect opportunities. MAP is a great place if you're a business owner and your business has quite the momentum, quite the size. You might want to look into MAP. I know it's by invite only, but check them out. There's EO, Entrepreneur Organization, also very interesting group of entrepreneurs. So lahat to are absolutely great places to network, build connections, and be interested in other people. Yan. LinkedIn, pala, bago ko makalimutan, please update your LinkedIn and use it wisely. If you don't have a good LinkedIn profile, you're missing out. So if you are listening to me, this is the signal that you need to hear. Go on LinkedIn, update your LinkedIn, put the right information there, and connect with people, connect with interesting folks. Join LinkedIn groups. There are LinkedIn groups that you will learn a lot from, you can contribute to. And again, potential partnerships and friendships can be born out of those groups. Siyempre, Facebook, alam niyo na. Okay, we have time for one last question. Let's hear it. What are your thoughts on sending personalized cold emails as a means of networking? Okay, let's think about this. What are your thoughts on sending personalized cold emails? Okay, first, I feel all cold emails need to be somehow personalized. Okay, so yes, networking, especially on the in virtual space, by default, they're really gonna be cold yet personalized, diba? So if you're asking me my thoughts, absolutely approved. The more personalized, the more customized, and the more direct in your cold email, your intention for connecting is the better. Sino na ba here naka-experience, nakatanggap ng message tapos na nakalagay lang, "Hey Sinds," or "Hey, dot, dot, dot." Di ba, tas parang ikaw, bakit di mo na lang sinama yung karugtong ng sentence na to para alam ko na kung anong kailangan mo, di ba? So, absolutely agree with sending personalized cold emails, especially in this virtual space. But let me add to that. If you're sending somebody a cold email that's somehow personalized and the objective is to network and build genuine connection, let me suggest that you put in your cold email or your outreach why you feel it is important to connect them. Why do you think it's important for them to connect with you? Diba? What's the value that I want to build in this connection? So again, dito pumapasok yung research, your genuine interest in them, and why you want to be connected. So sa LinkedIn, parati ko nakikita, "Hey Cindy, I want to connect with you because I think you're a leader in the industry." Okay. So, hindi man lang sinabi kung anong industry, hindi konting personalization na lang, hindi pa umabot, di ba? But look, the other day, somebody sent me, I think, PC out of Indonesia, sent me a message, parang sabi, "Hey Cindy, I'm blank from blank. We've been following All Care and our fund is interested in investing in more healthcare and insurtech startups out of South Asia. Are you free to chat? If you are, please connect with me so we can set something up." I thought that was interesting because very direct. They know about our company, they know about our industry, and she was interested in knowing more about what we were doing because of her background as a VC, diba? So for me, very clear, okay, this is a connection that I want. This is a relationship that is valuable to me. Yes, I'm gonna connect and I'm gonna reply. So, di ba, the more direct and more genuine we are, the higher probability that we're gonna get a response and a reply back. And I think this is what many sales reps and business development practitioners overlook. When you're trying to do outbound outreach via cold emails, cold SMS, cold calls even, you have to be direct. the people we're trying to connect with are absolutely busy. If they're not busy, then there's something wrong with that. Diba? If you're calling during work hours, if you're messaging during work hours, and if they're high enough, they're probably gonna be very busy, diba? So let's be direct. Let's tell them why we think this is an important message for them to read, why we think it's important that we connect, and how we can potentially help and build this partnership. So, ayan, and that's an example of something that I got recently, which I found very, very interesting, very valuable. I replied right away, and we have a scheduled meeting coming up. So, ayan. Okay. Meron pa ba tayong questions, violent reactions? May mga pahabol pa in the chat? Okay. All right. So my boss Julian is saying we should just recap already. Okay. So again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for our friends and partners, colleagues that tuned in tonight as we talk about how important or how relevant is networking for entrepreneurs. So, in a nutshell, super, super relevant, super valuable if you know how to maximize these platforms like networking, conferences, organizations. Because, again, I said this earlier, but I'll repeat it, you get what you put in. So if you invest in getting to know people, you invest in genuine interest in them, you invest in relationship building. In the short term, great if you can get qualified leads, right? Great if you can get qualified referrals. But in the long term, wala ka talagang talo because you're building connections, you're building relationships. You might end up servicing them as a client. You might end up working for them. They might end up working for you. You might end up going into a JV or a partnership. Whatever the case is, that genuine investment in the beginning will go a long way. So I hope that was helpful for you. Let me just remind you, friends, to follow us on our social media platforms. On Facebook, you can catch us at allcare.io, as well as on LinkedIn. On Instagram, you can catch us at allcare.io. You can also subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And we're also on Kumu. We have a verified checkmark on Kumu. You can check out All Care. Ask Cindy is a weekly session where we talk about topics and questions that are relevant and helpful for entrepreneurs, startup founders, and those that want to become entrepreneurs. So we hope this was helpful to you. Also, just want to plug if you want to know more about All Care and how we provide benefits to SMEs, freelancers, startups, and the gig economy, please make sure to check out allcare.ph or allcare.io. Doesn't really matter. Go check our website, go check our social media pages, and see what great things we're doing at All Care. That's it. Thank you so much, guys, and see you again next week. Bye.